jumped into this Twitter space and I met Tiffany Justice. And long story short, now there's 130,000 mama bears fighting gender ideology.
Yes.
All of the members of Parliament had voted unanimously to consider a conversion therapy if you weren't willing to affirm your child's wish of trying to change their sex. And it's my Kamala Harris moment I do. It's a very long border with Canada and the United States of America. And I thought, well, that's not good, right? That's definitely coming here. And sure enough, it was already here, and we were seeing it in our chapters. And I know Bridget experienced it in Sarasota County. And I was a school board member too. And there were all these procedural documents that were going around school districts that school boards hadn't voted on. They weren't aware of them. But they were telling schools that they could keep secret if a child wanted to be called by a different name, or use different pronouns at school, or use a different bathroom, or to choose where they would sleep on field trips. And so when Chris told me that this had become law in Canada, how incredibly concerning, and I said, well, it's time to wake up American moms. And so we've been breathing courage into American moms on this issue, and I think the impact has just been astounding.
To me, and I'm glad you touched upon that, because to me, again, as a school board member, and this approach, I became aware of this issue. Initially in 2015, we had a student, and our board did not want to deal with it. I tried to force the conversation because we're policymakers and you have to figure out what that looks like. And there are unforeseen consequences, and we're going to have Riley and Paula up here shortly after, but I having spoken with them, a lot of the things I felt like I was raising an alarm bell about, and that was not even on the medical side. This was just about boys and girls being in the bathrooms together. What does that mean on overnight trips? What does that mean for sports? What does it mean for locker rooms? And no one wanted to talk about it. And so, I mean, I think that as we kind of accelerate out to the legislators that were up here, the policymakers, the activists, this conversation has been around for a while and nobody wanted to talk about it. And it's at the detriment of thousands of children. And so, and it gives me goosebumps because it really frustrates me, but it's been a long journey. And there's a lot of people who've tried to do it under the rug, or tell you don't know what you're talking about, or call you all of the crazy names, which I'm sure you guys have had a couple of those.
No one calls me anything that is not true.
So, but I think that is where that is all intended to shut down the conversation. It's all intended to incite fear and to get in line. I mean, what has your experience been when it comes to trying to shut you down?
So I have a little bit of experience with this. I had probably 20,000 conversations out on the street. The only tactic the left has is to silence conversation. People ask me all the time, have you ever run into an intelligent response to counter you? No, I haven't. There are none. There are only two objections, really, that they ever have. One is really a despicable manipulation. It's a coercive tactic to shut parents up and decide don't let kids try to change their sex, they'll kill themselves. There's no evidence to support this. Any evidence that we do have actually goes the opposite. With the adult population, the best study that's been done was out of Sweden, and it found that 10 years after sex reassignment surgery, suicide rates were 19.1 times higher than their peers. Look, we've existed as a species for a long time, and whether you believe in God or evolution, this makes no sense, because if you believe in God, this ideology is teaching that God made a mistake.
Yeah. Right.
And if you believe in evolution or both, well, this ideology is essentially teaching that somehow 1 billion years of the process of natural selection has failed, and we now need a pharmaceutical company to help our children be their true selves during this little 10-year blip in history. So when I have these conversations, people have nothing intelligent to say. They just want to yell at me, the people who are against me. Honestly, it's more than 90% of the population supports this message. Most Democrats support this as well. Democrat parents, guess what? They don't like their child going to school, getting a new name, getting a new pronouns, and not being told about it.
Yes.
Because no one knows their kids like their parents. And this trend in the Democratic Party to cut parents out of this conversation, as though parents are automatically a threat to their own child.
Yeah, right.
This is the default setting for the Democrats, is that parents are automatically a threat to their own child, and they need to have this hidden from them. It's totally outrageous. What the most beautiful thing about Leadership Institute and Moms for Liberty, what we're doing, is we are empowering parents to take control. The Leadership Institute is teaching them how to run for school boards. Moms for Liberty is breathing courage into hundreds of thousands of parents all across the nation, because as their motto says, we do not co-parent with the government.
Yes.
So when you think about all of the work that Moms for you and Tina and Moms for Liberty have done, and how many times, I mean, it's pretty astounding how frequent they try to shut you down, and what they throw at you. And I think so many
Very
people,
dangerous.
Yeah, very,
Very
dangerous.
dangerous in America.
But I think people who are frustrated about what's going on, because as Chris said, this is across the board. It's common sense, but it's not a partisan issue. There are people from all over the country that maybe lifelong progressives, and they are saying, I don't want to have anything to do with this. But there is a real fear for people to step out and talk about it, and they have tried to silence you guys in a tremendous way over and over and over again. Can you share some stories?
Yeah, I mean, I think our moms are dealing with this constantly. We hear stories all of the time, right? I mean, the National School Board Association partners with the Biden administration, and then the FBI is weaponized against parents. One of our moms gets a phone call. She's making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for her child's lunchbox, and she has spoken at a school board meeting, and now the FBI is questioning her. That is craziness. That is not the America that we know and love. Our moms talk all the time about being doxxed and canceled. Many of their livelihoods have been threatened. I know that our moms struggle sometimes to find places to hold events. And it's through that effort to silence that I think the truth really does come out. There's a question we need to ask ourselves about why parental rights are such a threat to some people in America.
Yes.
Why is that? You have the fundamental right to direct the upbringing of your children, their education, their medical care, their morality, their religion. You as a parent have that. The government does not give you that. They cannot take it away. Why do they think they can? And so our moms are standing in their courage. I mean, they are the bravest people that I know, and they're incredibly smart and kind, and they do want to have conversations. I mean, what drew me to Chris, who, we met on a Twitter space, is one of my best friends now, is the fact that he's willing to have conversations about issues that people are concerned about, and you treat people with respect. You always engage with them and ask them to engage with you. You're not always treated respectfully, but that's the way it goes, right? You keep your cool. And that's really what moms relationships. But there's a boundary, Bridget, between school and home. And that boundary has been blurred to the point that apparently the American government doesn't understand where it is anymore. And we have government schools. I don't say that as a slur, even though it kind of sounds like it, doesn't it? But we do have government schools. And parents deserve and have the right and should expect their children are learning to read in school. And community members and taxpayers should demand that our children are reading in school and learning to read in school. And so when I look at Milwaukee figures for reading proficiency, which are abysmal, when you look at national reading proficiency, which has 2/3 of American children not reading on grade level, why so much time on the sexual orientation and gender identity discussion? Why so much focus on all of these other issues in our schools rather than reading, writing, and math? And so, our moms are just demanding every day. Teach the basics, right? Our children attend school. You're not raising our children. We do not co-parent with the government. And they're redrawing the boundaries. So apparently putting up boundaries is difficult for some people in America, but we're going to keep drawing that line, and they can just deal harder.
I do think that it worries me, and I'll just say that when you look at what's happening, they're weaponizing public education for a very radical agenda. That's just what's happening. And so thankfully to all of you and to the thousands of parents across the country who are being brave and speaking up, because it is the path of, it's not